All right, with this assignment, you're going to start combining all the things that we've learned so far. So you've learned timing and spacing, slow in, slow out, arcs, overlap and follow through, squash and stretch, and now we're adding a new one called anticipation. Anticipation is the action preceding the main action. So the main action would be jumping in this case. So the anticipation would be squatting down to or squashing down to get the momentum to jump, just like you would if you were jumping. So before we do that, we're going to draw our annotation. So press T to open your toolbar. We're going to select the annotations tool, and we'll do our best to draw arcs that are nice and smooth, and you need it to get to here. So some people do multiple jumps on like one platform. Maybe it bounces there and then bounces there and whoop. So let's go back. There we go. That's a bit better. It's not so sharp. Okay, and then we got to draw in our spacing. So remember at the top of arcs is the slowest, and then it speeds up. This one might not have very many. Okay, so keep this in mind. You do not have to follow this exactly because my arcs are really bad. So you want to try and make it as arced as possible. Okay, so let's switch back. Let's start animating. I'm going to select all of the controls on this. Make sure you're in pose mode. If you're not, it's going to be orange. So make sure you're in pose mode. And I'm going to set a keyframe on everything. So let's make sure I did that right. Okay, and then I want it to stay there for a little bit. So if I want something to just not move, I just move the timeline and then just set another keyframe. I'm going to set auto key on so I don't have to keep doing this. So I don't have to keep setting keyframes. Okay, so now I'm just going to move forward a few frames. This is going to be anticipating the jump, so it's going to squash down and then go forward a little bit, and it's going to stretch up just like you would right before you jump. And for there, we're just going to leave the squash and stretch. We're just going to work on the movement now. So it's not moving here. It's not even moving here. Okay, but then we'll have it jump up. And my line is off to the side, so I'm not going to go straight up here. Okay, and we'll do every three, just like we did with the bouncing balls. We'll go 1, 2, 3, move our timeline, move our object. 1, 2, 3, move our object. Okay, so the timing should remain the same. You're not going to have 6 frames in front of one and 2 in front of the other. Okay, so here is the first jump. Jumps up and falls down. Okay. All right, let's work on the squash and stretch portion of this now. So it squashes down, stretches up, and it can remain stretched while it's there. And then as it slows down, it's going to not be stretched. And it still won't be stretched here. We can start angling this though. Okay, now here's where we stretch it out, but it has to follow the motion of the ball. It can't be out here or out here. It has to follow the arc that the ball is moving in. Okay, we'll make sure we move that just like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch that now. Okay, so it's stretched. There's the impact. So we'll go a couple frames, squash it down, and I'm just going to make it come back up because I'm not going to animate any more of the arcs. So you don't have to sit here and watch that. Okay, so jumped one time. Okay, now let's worry about the tail. Just going to lower my end frame there. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's select all of the bone controls. Now this is already set to individual transform in your file. But we want to individual transform because if we don't, I have median, which is usually the default. They're all going to move together like this, but if I have individual turned on, it will rotate like that. Okay, so let's see. Let's say there's a little bit of motion on the tail because it's alive. Squashes down, and I picture maybe that's how it's prepping. The tail goes up, the body goes down, and then as this thing jumps up, the tail will go the other way. And remember, the tail has to follow the arc as well. So I'm just moving every few frames, making sure that it lines up with the direction of the ball. Okay, and then it lands. And now it's going to go back this way. Now, because it's right on the edge, I would make this tail go all the way down. If you were more in the middle, there's not really room to do that, so it'll bounce off the ground. Okay, so let's push play. I don't like how fast this part is, so I'm just gonna spread those keyframes out just a little bit, just a couple frames. All right, so that's good, but it's not perfect. We want the tail to be offset, so like this one happens, then this one, then this one, then this one. Because right now, the way it works is they all kind of bend together and go straight together, which is not really how it would work. You'd have one part of it bending and then the next part and the next part. So, just like we did with our motion graphics assignment at the beginning of the semester, I'm just going to select. So I've got tail 1, 2, 3, 4 selected. I'm just going to select 2, 3, and 4 and all the keyframes. I'm going to press G and move them over 2 frames. Now select 3 and 4, move it over a couple frames. Now just 4 and move it over a couple frames. So now you can see how it's offset. So you'll have to make sure that you go all the way to the flag, and then that's it.